The pandemic caused by COVID-19 has affected not only students, but all people in general. So we have had to adapt as a society to new ways of carrying out our occupations. An example of this is how health and education authorities decide to continue with classes virtually, using different platforms, websites, or applications, so that the students continue to have access to education without risk of infection. However, this form of continuing education has provoked different opinions among people. On the one hand, there are people who are in favor of online classes. On the other hand, there are people who do not support this idea. All this is due to several advantages and disadvantages. Personally, I consider the advantages of studying virtually are: Number 1. When we study from home, we do not run the risk of being infected, leaving our health intact and that of our families, which is the most important thing at this time. Number 2. Not having the need to move from our homes to school. This benefits the way we can organize our time. In my case, it took me about 1 hour to get to school and another hour to get home. If to this we add the 2 hours I needed to bathe, iron my clothes, dress, comb my hair and have breakfast, it becomes a total of 4 hours. This is a lot of time, which I am now taking advantage of to do my tasks, projects, activities, among other activities. Number 3. Personally, I used to sleep very late doing my homework and get up very early to go to school, so I slept very few hours. I felt tired, and this did not allow me to put all my attention to classes. Currently, since I am studying virtually and without the need to leave home to go to school, I no longer wake up 2 hours before my first class, and now I do it 30 minutes before. This allows me to sleep a little longer and therefore have more energy and not be so tired when taking my classes and doing homework, which allows me to pay more attention to teachers. Number 4. Another advantage that I find of this current situation, which is impacting our country and our society, is the fact that we learn to use new technologies, platforms, and pages that help us in studying or carrying out our activities. Number 5. Another advantage of not leaving our homes is that we do not leave our pets alone for so long. Because, personally, my dog was very sad to be alone in the house for a long time. However, just as studying virtually has many advantages, it is also true that there are many situations or aspects that are considered disadvantages. In my opinion, the main disadvantages are: Number 1. A great disadvantage of studying virtually is the fact that we cannot use and take advantage of the facilities of our school, such as the library, the computer room, the laboratories, the cafeteria, among others. This affects more careers that have a lot of practical subjects, such as medicine, physiotherapy, and some engineering. They are much more difficult to understand if taken virtually. But this also applies not only to school activities, but also to extracurricular activities such as theater workshops, music, singing, and sports, because for their realization it is necessary to be in the appropriate facilities. Number 2. Another disadvantage is that by purchasing our books in English, they deliver it digitally and not physically. This affects us as it is much easier to do the activities in a physical book than in a digital one. Also that the price of the book is too expensive for us to have it only in a digital format. Personally, I download the English book in PDF format and print it. which generates an extra cost that I already paid for the book. And this would not happen if we continue in face-to-face classes and could have our physical book from the beginning. Number 3. Another disadvantage is that when studying in a virtual way, many times there are failures in the network or we suffer interference in our classes, which means that we cannot hear clearly the subject that the teacher is explaining, which makes that we do not understand 100%. In addition, there are times when the internet service definitely goes down, making it impossible to access the class and causing teachers to note that you missed when it wasn't your fault. Number 4. Another disadvantage of studying virtually is for parents who have very young children, because at their young age they do not yet know very well how to use computers or the platform on which they take classes. This means that the children's father or mother must be with them to keep an eye on some so that they can take their classes. Adding to this that many parents work, so they must be attending to their affairs and cannot be all the time helping them to take their classes. This causes because the father or mother are not with their young children. The children do not take their classes and therefore do not learn. Number 5. Another disadvantage that I consider very important is that we do not spend the same time with our classmates and teachers. This causes the student environment not to be the same, since such a relationship or trust has not been established in the case of new students, because they do not know their peers and teachers in person. Some of the advantages and disadvantages of studying virtually have already been discussed, although there are many more. Personally, now that I am in my 4th semester of physiotherapy, I consider that virtual classes are a huge disadvantage because most of the subjects that my peers and I have are really practical, that become very difficult to understand if done virtually. I hope that we will continue to take the necessary health and safety measures to reduce the number of COVID-19 infection so that we can go back to school as soon as possible, because although little by little we have become accustomed to having only classes, sooner or later it will be necessary to go back to school.